Good morning. My name is Jim Gilmartin, and welcome to the 202nd ECCL meeting. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the leadership of the ECCL, I want to welcome you to this 203rd meeting of the ECCL. We're accepting questions during the meeting, and at the end of each speaker's comments, I will ask for questions. We will try to answer as many as possible. However, because of time limits, we may have to cut them short. Finally, we are recording this session, so we will be sending it out. You'll be notified when it's available on the ECCL website. So why don't I just begin now? I'd like to introduce our panelists, these folks you see here up on the screen. Our guest speakers today are Jim Ward, Susan Lindenmuth, and Alex Greenwood. Also joining us are Mark Novitski, our Chief Operating Officer, Barry Friedman, our Chief Membership Development Officer, Alan Bowditch, our Chief Communications Officer, Nancy O'Malley, the Chairperson of the Environmental Council, and last but not least, Mark Russet, Co-Chair of the Safety Council. So let me begin with Jim Ward. Jim is a newly elected Village of Estero council person for District 6, and he represents the Brooks communities, Mirasol at Coconut Point, the residents at Coconut Point, and Rapallo. A resident of Spring Run at the Brooks since 2003 and in Florida since 2006, Jim has been involved in local governance in Florida for about 15 years. He served on the board of directors of the Spring Run Golf Club as treasurer and president. Jim also served on the board of the directors of the Commons Club at the Brooks, where I actually met Jim. We served together on that board. And he also served on the board of the Brooks Community Development District. During his tenure with those positions, he was involved with the member purchase of the Commons Club from the Bonita Bay Group. Really a coup, really a great job, and oversaw numerous million-dollar Commons Club renovation projects, the most recent being the Well Health and Wellness Center, which really looks terrific. Any of you have been around that are around in the Brooks, if you're there, you got to go see this place. It is really magnificent. So Jim, I'll turn it over to you. You're on.
Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate you having me here today. You basically just stole half of my opening comments, but that's all right. It's also a pleasure to be on the schedule with Susan and Alex as well. Interestingly enough, over the years, I've attended a few ECCL meetings when I was president of the Spring Run Board of Directors, and Don Eastlick would have his roundtable discussions. So I'm very familiar with what ECCL has done in the past, and really most of the guys that started the Estero Village 6 years ago came off of the ECCL. So you guys have done a tremendous job over the years, and it's very much appreciated by the community. As Jim just indicated, he just gave you a brief overview of my background, but I'll start with, again, a brief overview of my background, and then we can talk about the Estero Village Council, and I'd be happy to take questions. As I mentioned to Jim earlier, I'm one of the new kids on the block, so you need to be kind. So with that, I'll just tell you, I grew up in the New York City area, and I pretty much touched most of the boroughs of New York City. Jim will be very much familiar with what the boroughs of New York City are. I'm not sure how many else of you are familiar with it, but I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I was raised in Queens. I went to university in Manhattan, and I married a girl from the Bronx. So that covers 4 of the 5 boroughs of New York City. My dad was a detective with the New York City Police Department, and it was tough for my 2 brothers and I to get anything past him. It was a really difficult thing to sit down and be investigated by a New York City detective when you're trying to figure out what mischief you were into. My mom was pretty much a stay-at-home mom at the time, and she was pretty tough as well. But I ended up going to St. John's University for 2 years. I started my accounting career in Manhattan with Sterling Drug, whose flagship products were Bayer Aspirin and the Lysol products business. I quickly realized that 2 years of college was not going to do it in the business world, and I went out and I earned a bachelor's degree in accounting and a master's degree in finance from Pace University in New York City. Interestingly, I did that at night while I was working for Sterling Drug. And the fortunate part of that was Sterling Drug picked up the full boat from soup to nuts. They covered the full cost of both my undergraduate and my graduate degree. So that was really special. I stayed with Sterling until the late 90s when they were acquired by a British-based consumer products company. And at that point, I realized that I needed to find a different path, and I was able to leave there with, pretty much retirement benefits and went on to a different company. At that point, I joined another Fortune 500 healthcare company and was division vice president of finance until my retirement in 2003. It was at that point that I found Florida and I found Spring Run. And, it was fun to play golf and to play tennis, but I also quickly realized that I needed to get engaged and keep myself occupied and busy. And having a financial background, I was able to become part of their long-range planning committee. So I jumped into that opportunity, and then later on was recruited to become a member of the Spring Run Board of Directors, where I served as the treasurer and president. I actually did that for 12 years, believe it or not. At the same time, I was on the Commons Club board, and as Jim indicated, that's where he and I originally met. I served on the Commons Club board as treasurer for a number of years and president, and currently I'm still president of the Commons Club board. I was also on the CDD, as Jim mentioned, and each one of them had their own challenges and opportunities, and they were just great opportunities to meet people and to stay involved and to contribute back to the community, which I think is really important. And that kind of brings me to the Estero Village Council. And I had looked at opportunities on the council for a number of years, but I never really found the right opportunity. At times when they were looking for people on the planning board or the zoning board, they were really looking for people with specific backgrounds in either architecture or building construction. So I never really fit the need that they had at the time. So I did not get involved. When Nick Betos was turned out, I had a conversation with Nick, and I also had a conversation, excuse me, with the Brooks Council of Presidents. And that led me to my involvement with the Estero Village Council. I started to get involved, I guess it was back in December. I went back to Pennsylvania for Christmas vacation with my sons and daughters. And I had conversation with Nick, and they were talking about the fact that they needed somebody to replace Nick. And I thought long and hard about it. I talked to a lot of the guys I knew on the Brooks Council of Presidents, and they all felt that I could make that contribution. And so I made that decision in January when I got back to Spring Run, and the rest is history. So now I've been sitting on the board for, and my dog is barking at something. I've been sitting on the board now for a couple of months. When I got back in January, I started attending all of the board meetings, council meetings that they had. So I was fully briefed by the time I was actually sat on the council on March 17th. So that was the dilemma. I was trying to figure out whether I wanted to celebrate St. Patrick's Day or take my seat on the board, but I managed to do both. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have, either about my background or the Estero Village Council.
So folks out there, anybody have any questions? You can raise your hand or let us know if you're interested. I can spot it if you are. And here's one, Mike Wasson. So I'm gonna, all right, Mike, you can comment, Mike, but you have to unmute yourself. There
Sorry,
you go.
I hit the wrong button. I'm not raising my hand. I have no questions.
Okay, got it.
Thank
That's fine. You're on, Mike. Ask your question.
Jim, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button when I tried to do something. I really don't have a question. I've heard Jim Ward speak before. Glad to have you on the board, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions there? Okay, Jeff Garner would like to say a few words. Jeff, you can talk now. You have to unmute yourself, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I too, I did not raise my hand, sorry.
Okay. Hey, Jim, you're getting off easy. This is a piece of cake now. Okay, I'm looking. I don't see anyone. Okay, no questions, but
I
oh,
think
here's one.
Alan has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Just a second, Larry. I see you have your hand up, but let Alan talk, and then we'll bring you in. Go ahead. Go ahead, Alan.
I just have what I hope is an interesting question for you, and it's if you had 3 wishes for the future of Estero now that you're on the council, what would they be?
Well, it's interesting. I've talked to some people in the Brooks and other areas, and I've kind of relayed some of the information that I've gotten from talking with Steve Sarkozy and being part of the village. And I find I don't think you're going to recognize the village in 3 to 5 years. I think there's so much opportunity that's going on. There's going to be so much development that goes on. And the point that I make to people is we got to do it right the first time. We have to make sure that we understand what development is and that it meets the criteria that the village has set in terms of their comprehensive plan and their land development code. We have to understand the needs of the residents, and we have to understand the needs of the developer to be able to do a project and to make it a return on investment for them. So, I think we need to make sure we understand what we're doing and we do it right the first time. We also need to make sure that water quality is the first and most important thing that is part of our village going forward. You mentioned, Jim and I talked about the sewer to septic system. That is something that is high priority for the village. We recognize there's some impediments to the Estero River and the Estero Bay because of some of the issues related to septic systems. So that is quite honestly a high priority. Obviously, the village, the property that the village purchased on Corkscrew and 41 is going to be a huge project for us, and we got to make sure we do that right. We have to make sure we keep a lot of that natural, but also recognize that we can do some nice things with some commercial development in that area. So those are the kind of things that I think are going to be important as we go forward. I hope that answers your question.
It does indeed. I'm very much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great question, Alan. Appreciate that. Okay, Larry Jones, you should be able to talk, Larry, if you unmute yourself. There you go. You're on, Larry.
Actually, Alan stole my question because I was just going to go to the point of, since he's the new kid on the block, what was some of the visions that he had in mind as his term starts and some of the things that he planned to look out for the village. So thank you, Alan. You stole my thunder.
Okay. All right, Larry, thank you.
I think the staff is blessed to have, the village is blessed to have the staff that we have, starting with Steve Sarkozy, and as you indicated earlier, Mary Gibbs and David, and a whole host of people that support the Estero village. We really are blessed to have the quality of people that we have there. And
Put a little pepper on it already.
The work that they put into ensuring that we keep communicating in the right way to the residents of Estero, and that's really very important.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Councilman Ward?
Jim, I raised my hand.
Okay.
Okay. Councilman Ward, Nancy O'Malley. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Nancy.
I'm the chair of the Environmental Committee for the ECCL, and I am new to the ECCL as well. But one of the things I sat through the recent meeting of the Village Council, and there was a deferral on voting on the next phase for septic to sewer. Is this something we should be focused on and concerned about?
No, in fact, they're going to take that up at the next council meeting. I think there were a couple of other people that we wanted to look at before we decided to hire someone to take us through the process. I think that there were a couple of other firms that kind of raised their hand and said, we'd like an opportunity to talk to you about it. But I think Steve Sarkozy, I just met with him yesterday, as a matter of fact, and this came up, and I think he's ready to make that decision and move forward. I think
That's
we all
great.
recognize how important that project is.
Yeah, that's great news. We just wanted to make sure that if there's any work we need to do in support of advancing it, that we made you aware that we stand ready to do what we can.
The village is committed to that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Appreciate the question. Anyone else have any kind of thoughts or questions, comments?
Mark is raising his hand, I think.
Okay, Mark, go for it.
I had to unmute, yes. Jim, do you have your list of liaison assignments you have yet? Is there a couple of things you're specifically the belly button for, so to speak?
One of the things that I've talked to Steve about a few different things that I have an interest in. One of the things that I have been appointed to is the Chamber of Commerce. So that is something, and there are a few other things that I've been talking to Steve about that we still need to have further discussion on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, on that point, just as a sidebar, Larry Geisel, who was also recently appointed to the council, is now a liaison for the ECCL. So we'll be having a lot of conversations with Larry. As a matter of fact, I'll be meeting with him on Monday and begin some dialogue. Okay, it doesn't look like there's anyone else. I hope I'm not missing anybody, but I go up and down the list of all these participants, and that's really it.
Jim, let me just.
Yeah, any comments? Go ahead.
Just one point, Jim. There was a question earlier about the rust stains on Estero Boulevard. And it's basically coming out of the irrigation system. And my understanding is that they have resolved the problem by putting filters on the irrigation system. Now they need to attack the problem and resolve the rust stains that are currently there. They believe they have a solution to that where they can spray something on it and wash it off. I'm not sure how easy that's going to be, but it is something that we are looking at very quickly and trying to rectify it.
Well, I guess, and this is specifically to you, Jim, in the Brooks there, they have that problem as well. You know, like I'm in Lighthouse Bay and the brown is all over the streets. So
is it from trees or is it from the irrigation? It's
irrigation.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know there are some issues related to some of the dirtier trees that drops.
This is irrigation. So I'm sure that if the people will make some comments about it to the village and they'll take a look at that along with the Estero Parkway. Okay, no other questions. Excuse me, for Jim. Jim, we appreciate your time with us. You're welcome to stick around. I know you have a lot of things on your agenda, so please feel comfortable enough to just.
No, I'd appreciate the opportunity to stay on.
Yeah, stay on. Absolutely right. Okay, let me go on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Susan Lindenmuth, and she'll correct me if I pronounce her name wrong, because we've had a conversation about that. Okay, good. Susan has been in the fire and emergency medical services business since 2004. It's a long time. She currently holds the position of Director of Public Affairs for the Estero Fire Rescue in Estero. She is a certified firefighter, certified EMT, and a fire service instructor for Florida. She also serves on the All Hazard Incident Management Team of Florida, State Emergency Response Team, and locally for Lee County. So I'm going to turn it over to Susan. She has some comments to talk to us about, give you some tips about different things. Susan, you're on.
Thank you. Glad to see everybody, the people that I can see, and those of you that I can't see. I can't wait until we can all be back together again.
Right.
This has been, as I'm sure you've probably heard from Chief Vandenbroek, this has been a very challenging year for everybody, particularly for our crews as well. And we're still seeing, some of those cases that we're running. So we are hoping and hoping and hoping that things get back to normal really, really soon. And we cannot wait to see everybody in person again. Couple of things that Chief wanted me to pass along because we get calls quite frequently, and that is, what is the status of Station 45, which is the new fire station that we have on the books that will be going out East Corkscrew, just east of the place. Give you a little update as to where we are with that. We have submitted the development order a couple of months ago. We are hoping to have that back and ready to go in the next couple of weeks. We are hoping to move dirt by the end of July, maybe the beginning of August, but we're hoping the end of July if everything goes well. Final architectural plans by the end of June is the expectation, so we can apply for the building permits through the county. And depending on how long it takes to get those, would determine what our groundbreaking is looking like. Groundbreaking right now is looking like the end of 2001. So August, September, November, somewhere around there. But as those things get closer, we will definitely let everybody know where we are. Mostly because we are so stinking excited about this. We can't wait. We are just so excited. Construction costs and materials, however, if you are have done anything in the construction or materials industry lately, I mean, it's kind of right up there with trying to get chlorine for your pool. Shortages, we've got issues. Jim's laughing. You know exactly what we're talking about. And that may delay the process. We're really hoping that it doesn't. We're trying to work very closely with our people and making sure that we can get what we need, but we may see some delays on that. Construction costs right now for the station, as well as the facility for training that will be there. This is going to be a dual station, which is something we have not had before. We are right at about the 6 million mark. We did very well in our construction costs and laying all of this out. We've gotten some really, really good deals on a lot of the things that we've worked with. So our building manager is doing a great job for us. Budget coming up for the new year will, of course, include some things that will open up Station 45. And one of those things, of course, will be 6 new firefighters. We are going to be looking to hire at the 1st of October to bring them on. So the hiring process will actually begin probably around July or August, the end of July, beginning of August, when we will put out those notifications and then go through that interview process. The purchase of a new engine is also something that you will see on our budgeting process. These are things that have been planned for and have been well in the works for quite a long time now. On the education side, on the community outreach side, as many of you know, our programs have been shut down through COVID just for everyone's safety, not only to keep people from coming into close contact with each other, but also, you know, we are still continuing to run those COVID patients, and we want to make sure that we do not expose anyone unnecessarily. So we've kind of kept our programs to Zoom. And that includes the hurricane preparation. Hurricane season starts the beginning of June. So this last week particularly has been Hurricane Preparedness Week. We have already done a couple of Zoom trainings for hurricane preparedness. The most recent one was actually Spring Run. We did one with them. We are hoping and continuing to look at the numbers that I've got my fingers crossed that June 1st, we will actually be able to start our community outreach programs back in person. I've got my fingers crossed, my toes crossed, my eyes crossed, everything that the numbers do continue to look good and to continue to trend upwards. If they do that, starting June 1st, we'll be able to deliver the hurricane preparation. So if that's something that you think your communities would like, we can do both. We can do in person and we can do Zoom. That's not a problem. This is a little different of a hurricane preparation class than most people put on. Yes, we cover all the basics, but it's from the eyes of a Florida native. So I am a 6th generation Lee County native. So preparing for hurricanes is something that my family does and has done for generations, and we do it year round. So it's a kind of a different twist on how to prepare for things. I've only seen snow 5 times, so I know if you guys take me up north somewhere, you're gonna have to educate me on how to deal with snow. So I'm gonna pass it along and show you how natives prepare for hurricane season. So that's all I have. So any questions?
Okay, folks, any questions for Susan? Let me just take a look and see.
I see Mark.
Okay, Mark, go ahead. Mark,
You're muted.
Yeah, I know. I'm hit the muted button.
you
In the past, the firefighters would help some of the residents change their smoke alarm batteries and other things. And we're hoping that when we get the go ahead, you all might be able to help us with that again.
Mark, I will tell you that I got an email from the chief a couple of weeks ago. Apparently he has already sent, back in August, he sent out an email to, I want to say it was the ECCL, but don't quote me on that one. That program will not be put back in place.
Okay.
It will not be put back in place in the amount and in the effort that it was before. The reason is because it was beginning to overwhelm the system that we had.
Oh, I'll bet. Okay.
It became so prolific that we ended up having to specify only 1 or 2 days a week that we would be able to do it. And then it got to a point where it was completely shutting down one of our trucks.
Wow.
So then we
Okay.
had to say, okay, only from this time to this time. And then, you know, when we got there to do this service, they weren't always met with the ability to do just what they were there for.
Right. Okay.
So it got a little out of hand, unfortunately. So we're not going to be able to put it
Well,
back.
yeah, and that's fine. And that makes sense to me. We just want to be able to tell people.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you that we will have opportunities to be able to give recommendations or ideas on where people can go to have this done. And if they need assistance, handymans and things like that.
Yeah, one of the biggies too, a lot of the communities are over 10 years old. So it's time to change the entire detector, not just the batteries. And that was way beyond EFR scope anyway. The other point to make for sure is the idea that the fire trucks need 13'6" clearance on the streets, especially a lot of these narrow streets. Yeah. So, you know, if we can all go back to our communities, and I've got a letter from Philip Green from 4 or 5 years ago. Could we get another letter from the chief, you know, to the ECCL so we can share it, that just says, hey, help us out here and keep those trees trimmed, because, you know, and the other thing the chief said in the past, which I appreciate, if you're illegally parked, the fire trucks can actually move your car, cause damage to your car, and it's your problem. So
yeah, that's something that we fight on a very regular basis, Mark, and I can absolutely get that updated letter for you.
Okay, thanks.
The prevention crews as well as the operations people, you'll see us occasionally just driving around, and I just did it the other day and actually had a roofer that had completely blocked the entire road in one community because he had to put a crane in there. Well, you know, we absolutely appreciate what you're doing, but if we need to get through, you know, that's not going to work very well. So yeah, parking on the street is an issue, and the height of the trees is also an issue.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Donna Sutton has asked a question. Are you going to be doing any CPR?
We are hoping that if everything looks good, that we will be able to reinstate our community outreach programs, including CPR, on January 1st. Or June 1st, sorry, June 1st. Well, as soon as we know that, I'm going to definitely put something out on our social media as well as our website.
Okay, John George has asked a question. What's the projected opening date of the new firehouse?
Right now, we don't have a projected opening date because with all of the things, including the delay on the materials, we really have not looked at. If I had to guess, I would guess probably summer of 2022. But if anybody puts that in writing, I will deny it.
Summer 2022. In terms of the CPR, you are going to have training. Is that correct? Is that what you're moving towards? Training in CPR?
Yeah, like I said, our community outreach programs, which include CPR, we are hoping to reinstate June 1st.
Okay, great.
So the way this works is I am on a conference call with the Department of Health every Thursday. And we continue to look at the numbers, and not just the numbers from day to day, but the numbers from week to week. And what we're specifically looking at is the numbers in Lee County, how they are trending, specifically with some of the variants that we're looking at, and also the number of COVID-related calls that we are still running. The last thing that we want to do is have exposure and not be able to decontaminate ourselves or our vehicles and then go and do a community-based event. That would be the worst case scenario. So as those numbers continue to trend down, and the last couple of weeks, they've looked very positive. If that continues, then I am hoping that I can launch everything back in June, on June 1st. If not, we're gonna do what we've been doing and take it week by week.
Okay, we have another question from Donna. Donna's asking, what about CPR, which was done in your classroom? Any
Same answer.
Same answer to that. Okay, that's great. Okay, there are no other questions to Donna. I'm sorry, to Susan. So I think we're going to move on then. I'd like to now introduce Alex Greenwood. Many of you who are on this, participating in this, know Alan. Alan is the vice president. I'm sorry, Alex is the vice president of Lee Health Coconut Point. He's also responsible for strategic and operational oversight of Lee Health's nationally recognized orthopedic service line, which includes roughly 40 independent surgeons and 4,000 annual joint replacements. It's just amazing. Greenwood's professional background includes roles as administrator of the Gulf Coast Hospital and operational leadership positions in ancillary and professional services. He serves on multiple boards in the community, including the Red Cross, American Heart Association, Heart Ball, the Estero Chamber, and the Terraces. Alan has been a frequent speaker on these ECCL Zoom and live meetings, giving us really good insights into what's going on with Lee Health. As you all know, the ECCL was deeply involved in supporting the Coconut Point facility. And Alex is going to talk to us a little bit about what's going on perhaps there and other areas, including perhaps that 46-acre property. So Alex, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate the introduction. I certainly appreciate the time. I want to make sure you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, great. And I just want to ask those, I'm getting a little bit of feedback and echo, so if you're not speaking, if you could just go on mute for me, I'd appreciate that. Thanks. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Hopefully this is successful.
Yeah, it came up.
All right, great. Is that looking good still?
Yeah, you have to go to full blown because it's just like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There you go.
Is that better?
Perfect. You're good. You're on. You're good. Yeah.
All right. So what I'd like to discuss today, I want to give a brief COVID update. I think a lot of people are staying pretty well educated on where we are with COVID. Talk a little bit about Lee Health's operational priorities, as hopefully we're coming, on the downside of the pandemic and some things we have going on, and then also talk about what's going on at Lee Health Coconut Point, including the 46 acres. I know that there's a lot of interest in what we're doing on the 46 acres. So here's our load. This is actually from yesterday. This was, and it's not changing a whole lot day to day. I don't have today's latest numbers. Our hospitalizations have been around 100 for a few weeks now. Interestingly, the hospitalizations, over 60%, sometimes up to 70% of the hospitalizations are for patients the age of 18 to 54, which is interesting. And We continue to send out communications. Hopefully you're seeing those to the community, encouraging the younger folks in the community to get the vaccination. As of yesterday, we had 10 patients admitted through the emergency departments with COVID symptoms. You can see we are basically at capacity, as a lot of the businesses are in town, and our ICUs are also close to capacity. So we are implementing our surge plans and our capacity management plans and managing that pretty well in the hospitals. So our message continues to be similar to what it's been for weeks at this point. Vaccination administration is a priority, face coverings, socially distanced, and hand hygiene, especially in our facilities. We know that CDC is putting out new recommendations almost daily at this point, which I think is good news. But we're continuing in our facilities to follow the same precautions. Our operational priorities continue to, again, haven't changed. Patient care, including COVID precautions and patients who are presenting with symptoms. We're focused on providing safe experiences for our staff, for physicians, and for patients. Our PPE supply continues to be stable. We're keeping an eye on that daily and send out reports to the leaders across the organization weekly on how that's going. So we are in contingency mode as defined by CDC, and we're doing okay on PPE. Capacity management, as I said, and of course, vaccine administration. With vaccines specifically, we have 3,400 Pfizer vaccines on hand and 7,200 Moderna vaccines on hand. We're expecting, I think today, actually, we're expecting 1,000 J&J vaccines as well. We are vaccinating anyone 12 years and older. We're using the Moderna vaccine for our community and for our staff. Anyone who meets that criteria can get a vaccine at our centralized vaccine clinic, which is at Gulf Coast Medical Center. We're also in the process actively. Golisano Children's Hospital is actively working with the school system to continue to plan how to vaccinate the students in the community. We expect that we'll be administering vaccines in the coming weeks in Lee Physician Group. But again, currently, all vaccines are happening at the Gulf Coast Medical Center vaccine clinic. And the county outside of Lee Health continues to administer about 20,000 doses weekly. So we're getting there. Where we are, I wanted to, again, this is, fresh off the presses. So across the United States, 35% of the population is fully vaccinated, and 72% of the population that are 65 and older have been fully vaccinated. So we continue to get there. In Florida, the population over 65, almost 71% of the population is fully vaccinated, and Lee is a little better than that at 73%, with 35% of the population fully vaccinated. I want to talk about Lee Health Coconut Point. We continue to be very busy. It has dropped, volumes and encounters have dropped a little bit in the past 2 or 3 weeks. What we would call season certainly lasted longer, and I would say that our volumes are still consistent with kind of the backside or downside of season. You can see the encounters there. Last week alone at Lee Health Coconut Point, we had 8,100 encounters, including 11,000 in the emergency department. That number is not correct on surgery. I think we did 234 surgeries. I'm sorry, that is correct for year-to-date number, 2,346 cases year-to-date, 60 cases last week. And LPG continues to provide excellent service and improved access to the community from a primary care and specialty perspective. Primary care alone last week, we had 673 visits. I just wanted to show our patient experience scores. Again, we have a vendor, a third-party vendor who independently surveys our patients. Our vision here at Coconut Point has always been to provide a world-class experience, customized boutique health and wellness services. And you can see we continue to do that with being top 1% in the nation across all of our departments. I want to talk a little bit about Bonita Health Center. We continue to add specialties at that location to support access for the community. We're really working hard. We're on a path to kind of begin to, a facility master plan where between Bonita Health Center and Lee Health Coconut Point, we can become one campus. So we have plans in with the village currently to expand our walking path at Lee Health Coconut Point all the way around the retention pond. We have plans in with the village to add parking lot tie-ins, signage wayfinding that is consistent with the Lee Health Coconut Point brand and the Lee Health brand, and also signage package for 41 that will allow access onto the Lee Health Coconut Point campus off of 41. So that continues to be part of our vision, and we're working on that. Here's a snapshot of some of the specialties we've added to support the service, the community access to health and wellness services. In May of 2019, we added adult allergy at that location. In March of 2020, we added pediatrics ophthalmology. Occupational health opened in September and is really busy, and actually also helping employers with their healthcare in the community, as well as when we have community events, we're able to provide some COVID precaution support through that occupational health office. As an example, the tennis tournament that is currently going on over at Bonita Bay, we help them with their COVID testing in preparation for that. Rheumatology practice opened in October and again is really busy. And here are some things that we are actively designing and putting into that facility. Peds behavioral health with 4 pediatric psychologists, and that will be right next to the ophthalmology suite. Things on the horizon that we're actively planning and designing suites currently, we're going to be bringing, I think, 2 urologists to Bonita Health Center. We're going to expand gastroenterology with 2 more proceduralists who will be doing GI procedures at the Coconut Point facility. Adult behavioral and addiction medicine, we learned through the community needs assessment that is one of the highest priorities in this community, and we certainly heard that even as we were designing this facility. So we're going to get that practice stood up to support the community. Endocrinology, we have a real need as well. Infectious disease in current state, our guests have to travel either to Fort Myers or Naples, so we're going to have a physician here to assist with infectious disease. And probably the biggest plan, the big bang that we have coming is our regional cancer center expansion coming in early calendar year 2022. We're currently designing that and working with construction partners on what that's going to look like. What will be included in that expansion will be an infusion clinic to include oncology, chemotherapy, and other infusions as well. We'll have a medical oncology practice with 3 medical oncologists working at Bonita Health Center. We'll have oncology-specific rehabilitation services supported by the rehab services from Lee Health Coconut Point, and all the clinical support services you would expect when you stand up a cancer center, and that would include oncological navigation services, genetics, counseling, and other clinical support as well, including some research and clinical trials going on at our location. So I want to talk about the 46 acres on the northwest corner of 41 and Coconut Road. I know there's a lot of interest in what's happening at that location. I think most are familiar with, based on previous updates, we engaged an urban planner with a lot of experience in this type of project. Dover Cole, they are still engaged and working through some things with us in the village currently. They are an expert in mixed-use urban planning. We've spoken to over 20 stakeholders a few months back to help us kind of program the vision of what will be on the property. There was a 5-day workshop, which also included stakeholders from the community, and we created a master plan, conceptual street design. So here is the location. You can see my cursor. This would be US 41 right here. This would be Coconut Road. Lee Health Coconut Point would be right here, and Coconut Point Mall is right here, just for some orientation of the property. So the 46 acres owned by Lee Health Coconut Point is this piece right here. Stakeholder meetings, I won't go through all of those, but really the point is to communicate that we have been very inclusive and will continue to be inclusive with stakeholders in the community. Your input is critically important as we continue to clarify what the vision is going to be and where we hope we're headed with that property. What we heard in those stakeholder meetings, there's a need and demand for medical office and high quality specialty care. We continue, as I said, to add services at this location. We think there's a real opportunity to integrate some medical services with some retail services and maybe fitness services on the new property. So we're kind of talking through what that could look like. Multifamily and workforce housing interests for the property. Health and wellness, I think we're getting a little closer to a vision of what that might look like with a fitness center, healthy food, and integrated health services within that as well, which could include physical therapy and rehab services, could include integrative medicine and kind of some forward-thinking, innovative primary care options, could include vision options and dental options, et cetera. We're still working through that with some people who are helping us with that visioning. Entertainment and public gathering, conference spaces, performance arts center, outdoor gathering, and then educational partnerships with FGCU in town and other colleges in Fort Myers and in Naples. You know, what are the opportunities to provide something really special for the community around education? Other things we heard, not necessarily about services, but kind of concerns about the property. We really want to connect people safely across 41 and Coconut Road. In current state, if you're on Coconut Road next to the Coconut Point property, heading towards the Hyatt, there's not a lot of traffic crossing 41, and it doesn't seem to be a safe path. So we have to talk to DOT and others about that. We certainly heard that there's an interest in kind of that active town model where it's very walkable. There are trails and the opportunity to extend bike paths from Coconut Road or for Lee Health Coconut Point onto that property. And, certainly a concern is how do we fit everything everybody wants? We can't fit everything everybody's asking for, but we think with this vision, we think that it's going to be something really special for the community. So you're going to hear me say this a couple times, I think, as I go through this. I'm about to show you some renderings and some ideas of what the vision can look like. Again, this is conceptual, this is a vision. Even when we get to the renderings with buildings, it's likely that a lot of those buildings will look very different when we're finished over the next 3, 5, 10 years. But again, currently we've engaged civil engineers, we've engaged urban planners, and so this is the concept and kind of the program for the property at this point. You can see, again, I'll orient you if you can see my cursor from my computer. This is US 41. This is Coconut Road. So we'll have access from the Coconut Road highway, and then we'll also have multiple access points from US 41. I'll go through each of these components that we're considering putting on the property. So the wellness facility, it's the turquoise that is right here. It's about 123,000 square feet. It's on less than 5 acres out of the 46. Multiple areas with medical office space for multiple specialties and integrated health services. And that is this lighter turquoise color, and I'm showing you the cursor. Hopefully you can see that. That would be in these areas. Office space is the darker royal blue, if you will. So multiple areas throughout the property where there will be some office space available. Retail and dining, again, throughout the property. This is our main entrance to the property. And so you can see along that there would be kind of this magenta color is kind of a restaurant row in that area. There would also be some dining opportunities in other areas, and there would be dining opportunities within the fitness club as well. On the current plan, there's an opportunity for some hospitality, probably a high-end integrated hospitality model that could possibly be integrated with health services, orthopedics, or surgical tourism, surgical destination, possibly integrated with Lee Health Coconut Point. That is this green area right here at the entrance. Some multifamily, as we said, there was a lot of discussion within the stakeholder meetings about multifamily solutions on the property. So you can see that lighter tan color, I think, throughout the area. Row houses in the northwest corner and along the west side, and villas also along the northwest corner. So you can see total commercial and office square footage is about 492,000, and total civic is 49,600. This purple, I missed that. This purple, the civic, would be, in current state, a theater, performing arts center, theater, something like that, that would serve kind of public demand, would be right here. And you can see there are multiple parks on the property as well. Just another rendering of the same view. So again, auditorium or performance arts center would be here. A couple parks. Again, you've heard me say it a couple times already, but this is just a concept or a vision. These buildings will definitely look different. I can tell you as an example, this fitness club on the north side of the property will definitely look different than that. That looks like it has an outdoor track and maybe some sort of sports solution on it. I don't think that'll be part of our solution of 5 acres and 100,000 square feet. Again, the main entrance is right here. Restaurant row would be right here. And a lot of the housing is on the west and northwest side. Without the shading, the same view. This is obviously the same property from the east. So US 41 is right here. Coconut Road would be over on the south side of the property. Again, the main entrance to the property is right here. Restaurant row through here. Fitness club right here. This is from the northwest corner looking towards the multifamily section of the property. For the most part, that's where, so the town homes and multifamily areas would be over here on the northwest side for the most part. So next steps on the project. Lee Health is applying to amend the mixed-use zoning. Under current state, we have mixed-use plan development. In the current zoning approval, it allows for 50,000 square feet of office, 250,000 square feet of retail, and 200,000 square feet of industrial use. Our proposed development will allow a mixture of office, retail, and multifamily, as well as those civic uses that we talked about. And it will feature a hotel, wellness center, and 3 parks on the property. So we're beginning that process. Our vision, we believe, is consistent with the village's village center vision as well, and the land use that they're looking for in the area. So we're really excited to be going through that zoning process. And the review and approval of that is estimated, as we understand it, to be 6 to 9 months, but we think there's an opportunity to hopefully speed that up by a couple months. So that's kind of the next step. Again, working really closely with urban planners and civic engineers, village council, and the planning and zoning board as well. That's everything I have today, and as the other presenters did as well, I wanted to allow a few minutes for questions, if you have time, Jim. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure there are some people that are interested in some of the areas you talked about. I will in fact just go through whatever I see. I see some interesting folks. Barry Friedman has got a question or so. But Barry?
Thank you. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning.
I know this has been going on for a while. There's been lots of renderings and lots of discussion. One of the renderings, I guess we saw maybe a year ago, included some sort of an entertainment venue or a concert hall, or has that been nixed?
No, that's still on the table. That would be in that space where the Performing Arts Center is.
That's what I thought.
We
okay.
haven't. Yeah, we haven't really landed the plane on what specific solution that will be, but that's the idea, right?
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. this is one that goes back to the early part of your presentation. It has nothing to do with the 46. John George asked a question of you. Of the 82% ICU capacity, about what percent of those are COVID-19 patients, if you can answer that?
I'll tell you, it's a lower percentage than earlier in the pandemic, but I don't have that number. I'm sorry.
Okay, fair enough. We
I
understand.
can get that. I can get that and email it to you, Jim, so that you can email it out. I think that's a good question. Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Let's see. Come on, folks out there. Any of you want to raise your hand or ask a question of Alex? I'm sorry, I keep doing that. Alex, any thoughts? Oh, we have 3 participants.
Jim, I've got a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Alex, this is Nancy O'Malley. I didn't see a lot on the rendering of parking. And if you could address parking and transportation into the new area.
Yep. So I should have pointed that out. There's a parking garage towards the center of the property as well.
Okay, great. And do we have plans for any public transportation between, say, the shopping mall and this area?
Yes, that is a need that we have circled as a priority. We don't have a plan yet, but we understand that we have to talk to the village and the county and others to make sure that public transportation is certainly included to the property and from the property.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, it looks like I have Larry Jones has a question. Larry, if you're muted and you want to have a question, please unmute. There you go.
Yes. Morning, Alex.
Hey, Larry.
As I do the trolley driving at the Coconut Point, one of the things that we run into is people coming and they really should be at the Bonita Health Facility and not Coconut Point. So we're constantly trying to redirect people to the other location. Is there any plans long-term to connect the 2 facilities together? So if someone comes in to Coconut Point, they'll be able to go to the Bonita facility.
Yeah, that plan, Larry, is going through the approval process with the village currently. We're going to have 2 what I call parking lot tie-ins, right? 2 intersections between Bonita Health Center and Lee Health Coconut Point, so it'll be easier. And along with that, we're going to have kind of a standardized wayfinding signage package in the parking lots to help people better be able to find their way between the 2 facilities. It's been a problem since we opened, and we're trying to get it squared away.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Okay, Neil Scheffler, I guess. You can talk now, Neil.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thanks for being with us again. You mentioned earlier that the majority of your admissions for COVID were in the younger age group. And I was wondering what your mortality in that group has been.
Low. It is definitely lower. I'll send that in the email as well to Jim. I can get that pretty easily over the next couple of days, I think. But it is lower. Mortality in general is decreasing. Length of stay in the hospitals in general is decreasing. We're in a much better place than earlier in the pandemic, for sure.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. Are there any other folks out there that are interested or have a question for Alex or any comments? Okay. Alex, looks like you're off the hook. No other questions. You can do your best.
Thanks for the opportunity, Jim.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah,
Alex, thanks
Alex.
very much. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's move ahead. We're moving pretty much on schedule, not too bad. I'd like to introduce Mark Russet. Mark is a newly appointed co-chair of our Safety Council. The Safety Council is really an expansion of our Transportation Council that's been around for quite some time. But ECCL management decided that it would be in the best interest of the ECCL and the community if we were to take a monitoring perspective on safety issues within the greater Estero area. So I just wanted to introduce Mark and have him say a few words. Mark?
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. So I guess I'll give you a little biography of myself. I was born in New Jersey and lived there till 1998 and became a Florida resident at that time, and originally landed in Naples. And I found there were better opportunities in Estero, so I became an Estero resident back in 2005. My education, I actually started out as a education major. I was going for industrial education. I was going to be a shop teacher, but I didn't feel that call. That call was really what I was after, and I got involved in the automotive industry and attended the University of Delaware while I was still living in New Jersey, and majored in automotive service management. So my entire career has been in automotive service management, and part of that management was running a safe dealership. So I was involved in a safety aspect and anticipating things that could possibly go wrong, and make sure that we prevented them. And if they did go wrong, how did we create a safer environment? So that's where my experience is. And I had an opportunity through a newsletter from the ECCL that they were looking for a person to work in safety, not knowing exactly what safety was about. So I find that it's a big elephant, and what we're trying to do is just take a bite of the elephant until we got a safer, area to reside in. And I've gotten great support from Mark and from Jim. I've met my other co-chair, and I'm pleased to be part of the ECCL, looking forward to grow and learn and to add what expertise I possibly can, and continue to make Estero, which I feel right now is a world-class community, continue on that same path. So any questions, I'm able to answer them for you.
Any questions, folks, for Mark? Let me take a look. No, doesn't look like it. Mark, thanks very much. Lou Fraterelli is Mark's co-partner, co-chair in that council. Lou has been around for a long time, very supportive person of the ECCL, very supportive of the village, and has a real good understanding of transportation issues. And we think along with Mark, we can do really great things on the whole safety side. So the next person I'd like to introduce is Nancy O'Malley. Nancy is, as she mentioned earlier, is the new chairperson of the Environmental Council. Nancy has a significant background in management and leadership, and we felt we had to replace the person that was there before, and now we think that with Nancy's leadership, we can fill up that council with various players, and we're doing it already to help us focus on a number of environmental issues. But at the top of the list is helping to make sure we have clean and adequate water. That's a big issue for everybody, and we want to support that issue any way we possibly can. So Nancy, say a few words.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. Look forward to working with all of you. And thanks for that very nice introduction. So my background, unfortunately, is not in environmental work. I'm an attorney by education, grew up in Minnesota, have lived pretty much all over the US and several other places in the world. I closed out my career as the Chief Payment System Officer for MasterCard, which meant that I was globally responsible for the prevention of fraud and cybersecurity for MasterCard. So I share that with you because I think what it taught me was how to work with diverse groups of people and to unite them to focus on solving some critical problems, whether it be in the payment system or politically globally. So I really do look forward to the opportunity to do this. I'm working hard to develop some expertise in this space. And I'm hoping to become a very good advocate for the organization overall. Just to give you a little quick update on some of the recent things we've been doing. We've had several very interesting and informative, and I think forward thinking meetings with the Calusa waterkeepers on how we might work together and what the opportunities are for some very quick wins in the water quality space. Specifically, we're talking about the pollution in the Estero River and its impacts, and the causes, the primary causes at this time appear to be related to the septic systems in some of our aging communities and in our mobile home parks. So the good news is that with all the infrastructure money flowing from Washington, D.C., we think there are some real opportunities to get the right kind of funding to support the Village of Estero's project to convert these leaking and polluting systems to sewer, which could provide tremendous and quick, tremendous wins for our community overall. So I'm really feel very honored to have this opportunity, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Are there any questions for Nancy today, folks? No, that's it. Nancy, we really appreciate her taking this on. As she said, she doesn't have an environmental background, but neither do I, neither do anybody else in the ECCL, candidly. But that doesn't make, that's not the issue. The issue is we need leadership, we need people who have management skills, and we can bring in others that can take on some of the specifics, both in the council, and as she said, we've started the process of talking to a number of other organizations that really have the expertise and the research and the experience to help do the kinds of things to improve our water quality. Our job would be to help them get the message out and do whatever we can to help that make it happen. So thanks again, Nancy. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Mark Novitski. We have two Marks now. I have to make sure I talk to the right person. Mark, we'll just talk a little bit about some highlights in the advocacy councils. Mark, you're on.
Right, we're still working on the veterans recognition pocket park. Got some letters out and some how we can do that better and get the right approvals and permissions. Adopt a Highway. We've had a great program this year. We've picked up tons. Where I think they're working on a meeting between the Village of Estero to do Estero Parkway and some of the other village roads, because the Adopt a Highway was a FDOT or Lee County, I forget which one. As Nancy, talked about the environmental, if you've got a particular issue you're really excited about and, don't want to go to every environmental meeting, that's fine. Tell us about it, work on it. We got Bob Dion right now working septic system to sewer conversion, doing a great job. He's getting into details that are just kind of blowing my mind. Same way with safety and transportation. There's things, we were at the groundbreaking ceremony yesterday, Mark, Lou, Chris Semino and others for the Corkscrew Road groundbreaking for phase 1. Kind of hot out there yesterday, but that's going to do some good things for us. We're looking at, how do we get in access to Larry Kiker Preserve from Corkscrew Road? That's a biggie. You're talking almost 15,000, residents trying to have to drive all the way to Bonita to do that. The Health Council, Mary Jo and her team are doing great things. She's got 3 or 4 committees going. And education, we just finished up, I think you've seen that on our webpage, we just finished up co-chairing or joining with the Estero Historical Society and the Estero Chamber to award 3 scholarships to Estero High School students. and we got to present the big checks on stage. That was really neat. So we've got a lot of good things going, and if anybody has any time and wants to work with us, you tell us what your passion is, and we can find some place for you to help. And anywhere, we'll tell you right up front how much time we think it'll take, and you can tell us right back how much time you're willing to give. But together we can do great things here, and I sure appreciate all the help and the team here. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Absolutely. I'll echo what Mark is saying. There are a lot of opportunities within the ECCL. And if you go to our website, esterotoday.com, you can go right to the various councils and take a look at what we're involved in a little more detail. And anywhere on that website, you can just click and you can get a message to us saying, hey, I'm interested in such and such, and you will get a response. So please think about it. Remember that when the village was established way back about 6 or 7 years ago, and we know a lot of the ECCL was involved in it, beginning with Don Eslick and others that really pushed for this and put in a lot of sweat and time to make it happen. Our part of that was to create a village that they call Village Light, and that means they don't have a lot of staff. So they look to organizations like the ECCL to support them. We can reach out and try to get volunteers, and we're pretty successful at it in a number of areas. Mark talked about education, our junior achievement program. Jim Shields was the driving force behind that, who is currently a board member and did some magnificent things for the schools and the children in our schools. So we continue to do those kinds of things. But when I say we, it's you. It's not us. It's not leadership. It's not the folks that are acting in different chairs. They're there to provide leadership. They're there to provide help, provide resources wherever we possibly can through the ECCL. But the people that actually make it happen are you, who are participating in this Zoom meeting and others. So we thank you for that, and there are opportunities. Okay, I think we're getting close to the end, so I'm going to ask, are there any questions that are general in nature that you might have about anything that's going on in Estero? Let us know now, and we'll do our best to answer a question. So anybody have any other questions? Okay, looks like we're okay. So let me wrap it up. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Special thanks to Jim Ward and Susan Lindenmuth and Alex Greenwood and all who engaged in this meeting. It really is something that we look forward to every month. We also know that Zoom goes so far. We understand that. It's great to see people and great to be able to give you information as to what we're doing, because the COVID has not stopped us, and getting feedback from you on a variety of issues. That's why we bring these speakers together who have some insights about various issues that we're sure you're interested in. But here's the good news. We think if things go well, we'll be back live in September. We've actually even booked the park for the rest of the year. We are going to take a respite for July and August. A lot of people are doing their own thing. We will continue doing our work, but we really don't see a need to have a Zoom meeting in July and August. If that changes, we will let you know. So we're looking forward to September, and we're really looking forward to a personal meeting where we can all shake your hand and face you. And hopefully all of you who do get involved in us then are all vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, my God, you can go any place now. You can walk 10 blocks and you get yourself a vaccination these days. So it's not like it was in January where everybody had to get on that phone and use 6 phones going at the same time to try to get an appointment. Those days are gone now. We have an abundance of vaccinations. So please, any of you out there, or any of your friends or your family, get them vaccinated. It's really the way to go. Next month's speaker will be Mary Gibbs, Community Development Director for the Village of Estero. Mary Gibbs as you may recall, those of you who attend these meetings, did a bang-up job in terms of telling the world what was going on development-wise in Estero. Every time somebody put a shovel in the ground, or they saw something going up or coming down, people were wondering, what's this? What does it really mean? And they had the opportunity of asking Mary questions about it, and she did a great job of it. It was one of our most attended Zoom meetings we've ever had. So she'll be back. Also, on that same day, we're going to have David Willems, who's our Public Works Director of the Village of Estero. Very smart, insightful, interesting guy, who is going to talk about what's happening on the public works side of it, the kinds of issues that early on people were talking about, the brown coating on the streets and on the Estero Parkway, and it's happening in other areas. And Jim Ward mentioned that they're involved in this and they feel they have some form of a solution to get rid of it. So those are really, really great people. And our next meeting is going to be June 11th. That will be a Zoom meeting, and it's likely Zoom. And on that note, thank you all for joining us, and this meeting is adjourned. Take care.
Take care,
Thank
Jim.
you.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Jim.